if you're worth anything, you ought to be able to write some songs when you had those people and Dottie, you know, and Jeannie Seely and those people as your teachers. So if I know how to string words together, it's because of those people who taught me, and they wouldn't let me get away with schlocky work. Came home, been on the road 2 weeks. Kris Kristofferson was asleep on the couch. Roger Miller was asleep in the chair, and Willie Nelson was asleep on the floor in Dottie's house. And those are the people that she introduced me to. So I miss you, Dottie, and I'm grateful. I was the light man for Jack and Jeannie Seely when they had a show at Roger Miller's King of the Road Hotel. You remember that? I was working lights, and I was also working at WLAC TV. So Jack and Jeannie are doing their show up at the roof, and Roger Miller and Farron Young were in the audience that night. I didn't know that. They were, you know, it was dark. The stage was about this big. So I'm over there, and all the lights did was up and down. It wasn't like we were doing, you know, Super Troopers and all. It was just up and down, up and down. It was a lot of light, ain't quite as much light, ain't no light at all. And you know, that's kind of what our deal was. So Jeannie Seely says, folks, so our light man's a songwriter and a great singer. He's a young kid. Let's bring him up here and sing a song, okay? And everybody said, fine. So I said, go on, point your finger straight at me. I've hurt you bad. It's so plain, any fool can see. But don't condemn me for the cheating things I do. 'Cause everything I know about cheating, I learned from watching you. Thank you. And the audience was very nice, and they gave me a nice round of applause. I you know, bowed and thanked them very much and got up to walk off. And Farron Young sticks his head into the light. He was sitting at the first table and just, you know, kind of sticks his head up the stage and says, I want to hear that blank song again. And I said, Mr. Young, I'm just the light man. I can't do it again. Roger sticks his head up there and says, I own this joint and I want to hear it again. So it's things like that. That's what happens in our town. And people who believe in you, you know, and we'd have guitar pulls. You know, you sit around in a circle and a lot of people are there, you know, like after a concert somewhere, or Dottie would just invite a bunch of people over and we just sit around and do it. So, and she took me every place with her. She took me to the first time I ever was on the Grand Ole Opry, I sang at the Grand Ole Opry in the old Ryman Auditorium, sang harmony with Dottie on one of those, you know, first shows. So we loved, you know, and how can you not, as I say, have a love for the music and for the words, and I'm grateful for that. And people around town just love songs. Kris, Dottie, the brothers and I recorded and our sister, a little song called Rain in Dottie's living room on a little cheap tape recorder, and the late great Snuffy Miller played drums on the keys and his change in his pocket, you know, like that. We recorded this song. Dottie played it for Kris. Well, he loved it. A week later, he was doing a recording session at Monument. Dottie and I went over there, and Kris, in the middle of the session, sees Dottie, that red flaming hair, you know, coming in there. And he saw it through the glasses. Hey, Dottie, you got that tape, them kids from Texas? I want Brother Fred to hear it. So they stopped the session with thousands of dollars worth of musicians sitting in there. Kris stopped his session and played our little song for his record producer, Fred Foster. You know, they've got thousands of dollars worth of stuff. And Fred said, son, come to the office Monday morning. We're going to make music history. And we signed our record deal with Monument. Other artists, you know, helping each other and sharing the music. And then, you know, I met Roger. I sang at his funeral finally, you know, many years. The funniest man I've ever known. Roger, Johnny Carson was pretty fast, pretty funny. Roger was equally... Roger had a little game he'd play with me. he'd sing the first line of a song and then just look at me and see if I could come back with something. One night he said, "Don't fall in love with anyone from Cleveland if they've been known to have strong family ties." He looked at me. I said, "If the doctor says you got a week to live, go live in Cleveland. It'll seem like a year before you die."